What is up, Tube users, and welcome to another edition of Fantastically Fun Games for $15. Today, we are talking about one of my favorite platformers of all time, Spelunky. Spelunky is that excellent blend of platforming and a roguelite that can also be played with friends just to make it even more fun. I typically don't like platformers that much. I wasn't into the Mario games growing up or anything of that sort, but Spelunky just feels so good. The movement feels really smooth and the platforming can be very difficult, but it's very rewarding when you go on a nice run. And Spelunky has an interesting take on the roguelike mechanics. Typically in roguelites, you see yourself and your character upgrading throughout different runs of the game. In this game, there's really no upgrading your characters. I mean, you can get some upgrades in the run itself, but overall, the only upgrades that come is shortcuts that take a lot of time and effort to even get to those shortcuts. And with only 4 health at the start of each run and everything in this game just trying to kill you, you really do have to plan out each move very carefully. And that's one thing I really like about this game, is the pacing of it. Sure, you do want to go a little bit slower when you're starting out and learning the game, but there are mechanics that cause you to actually have to go fast. One specific mechanic that the game has is a ghost will spawn and just go around and try and kill you. There's no way for you to avoid it, and you just have to get to the end before the ghost gets you. Another thing I really like about this game is the simplified upgrading of your character. A lot of games that I play that are roguelites have a very complex upgrade system for your characters. Like in Gunfire, there's just so much reading to do, and like FTL, there's a lot to just know and think about with each run you go into. This game, it's just more about having good mechanics while platforming, which is just really fun and really satisfying when you go on those good runs. And the only real upgrading that you do in each run of this game is through shop items that you'll find and different chests and crates that you'll find throughout the run. Normally crates and chests don't have that many items that will upgrade. You mainly just get the big items from shop things, and those are just completely random and most of the time are just kind of useless in my opinion. Another great thing about this game is the ability to co-op. Although the co-op in this game is pretty challenging, I would almost say it's more challenging than just playing it solo, because there is friendly fire and it is very, very unforgiving. I mean, just jumping on your teammate's head just immediately does damage to them, so there's just a lot of things to worry about when playing co-op that you don't have to worry about when playing solo. One final thing I love about this game, before we dive into some tips and tricks about it, is how simple all of the controls are for this game and how smoothly it runs on just basically anything. I mean, this game is almost 10 years old at this point, I think, and it runs smooth on just anything. I'll use it on my Surface and play it there when I'm on a flight or something. It just works so well on any platform that you play it on. Actually, before we dive into the tips and tricks I have for this game, let's go over some of the bad that I have about this game. This game is extremely unforgiving. I have about 93 hours in this game, and probably 50 to 60 of that are actually trying to go through the levels and try and beat the game, and I still have yet to beat the final boss, or at least what I think is the final boss. This game gets extremely hard the further you go into it. Although to counter that point, like as you see here, it is just so quick and easy to get back into another run. I think one of the more frustrating parts of this game is how much damage some things can do to you. I mean, there is a lot of enemies and different things that can just one-shot you, no matter how much extra health you have, and it can be kind of frustrating. Another thing I really wish this game had was an indicator when you're throwing an item. There's just been countless times where I've tried to throw an item to activate a trap or something and have that item come back and hit me in the face, and it's just kind of frustrating because, I mean, like normally you wouldn't have to worry about your own item hitting you, but in this game everything is really unforgiving, and that is just one part of it. I also find the damsel in these missions to be kind of weird. Like, she's obviously in distress and she needs help getting out of this cave, but we help her by knocking her out, and then we get a kiss that gives us life at the end. I don't know, it just feels kind of weird and unsatisfying. Another issue I have is unavoidable damage. As you could see right there was traps on either side. I had no items that I could throw, and I just had to take that damage, which is brutal. I mean, I lost half my health because of that. Alright, but now that we've talked about both the good and the bad of this game, let's go into some tips and tricks that I have for anyone that wants to try and start out on this game. My first tip is to not underestimate looking up and down when traveling into new parts of a cave. If you hold the up arrow key for a few seconds, it will pan your camera up and you'll be able to see things that you normally wouldn't see. Same thing for looking down as well. Using the up and down arrow keys too also helps with throwing different items that you may have on your person at the time. If you look up and throw an item, it will do an upwards arc, which it's kind of unpredictable, and I normally don't do it unless I need to set off a trap above me, but I definitely use the down movement of moving an item, which is just a slight movement of the item, as you can see right there. Doing that down movement also works wonders for placing bombs in areas that you want to place them. Another tip I have is after you get out of the first section of the cave, which each section has 4 different levels to them, everything beyond the first level, basically everything in there is trying to one-shot you. So be very, very careful once you get past the first section of this game. Another tip I have if you're getting to the end of a section of this game is to make sure that you have ropes, some money, or bombs with you. Typically these things are needed for the tunnel man who will allow you to access shortcuts to different sections of the game, so it's always important to have a couple of those on your person when you're traveling to the next section. As far as bringing things over to the next level, obviously you want to try and save the damsel if you can. Sometimes it can be a little bit tricky, and sometimes you have to use a lot of items. Like here, I would have had to use a couple bombs and some ropes, and I didn't really want to do that to save her, so I just went on to the next level. So don't do it if it's too much of a hassle. Also, the large treasures that you'll find in different runs are always booby trapped, and they don't actually give you that much treasure. It can be good for starting out, but typically I just avoid them. It's also a good idea to bring some sort of held item like a rock or an arrow or something to a different level, just to trigger traps that are around. I typically like to keep a rock on me because they can be used as many times as you want as long as you're holding onto it, but an arrow also works just as well and can be a really good tool for damaging enemies that have more than 1 HP. As far as shop items go, I typically don't get that many shop items. The ones that I do look out for, though, are the compass, which is really good for finding where exactly the end cave is, and the spiked boots, which are really good for killing enemies that have more than 1 HP. The Hulk gloves are also a really good item to use too if you ever manage to get those. They're really good for just being able to climb around places and not have to use as many ropes to get up high. Also, it's also good to stock up on bombs and ropes if you need to. Typically, if you have 3 of each, that's usually good enough for a level. You'll typically find some in each level that you go into, so it's not a big deal if you have more or less than that. I mean, as you can see in these runs, like, I am very conservative with both my bombs and my ropes, which I typically don't need to be, but it's just how I play. Another tip I have if you want to be a little bit greedy is you can steal stuff from the shopkeep. I wouldn't recommend it because he does get angry and he comes back for revenge in later levels. Plus, he is armed with a shotgun that can one-shot you basically. Another tip I have is to try and kill any new enemies you come across. Every time you interact with a new item or kill a new enemy, it goes down in your journal, and so you can go to your journal and see like different stats on that certain enemy. Another important thing to note is that there is fall damage in this game. Typically, even if you fall from great heights, you'll only take 1 hit of fall damage, but even 1 hit is a lot of HP. I mean, it can be over half if you're only down to 2, so it's important to know that you can take fall damage in this game. I think it's about 7 or 8 blocks is where you'll take fall damage, so just keep that in mind. An important thing to master to help reduce fall damage is the ledge grab. If you walk over to a ledge and just kind of go to the very edge, go just off of it and then hug back, you'll be able to just hold on to a ledge. And that can be a real lifesaver and can help reduce some fall damage that you would have possibly taken if not otherwise. My final tip I have for this game is if you do get to the end boss, which is going to take a while, make sure you bring plenty of rope. The boss does require a lot of rope to do properly. But other than that, I hope you guys enjoyed the video. Leave a like if you do. Comment any other tips and tricks you have for this game. And I'll see you in the next one. Peace.
That rhythm.